So this is just a little continuation of how I've got my Blender set up, and I wanted to go across how I have my quick favorites set up. So at the moment I've actually gone ahead and I've removed all of mine so that I can show you where we find all these and how to add them into our quick favorites so that we've got them in a logical order. So let's start with the object mode first, because we have different quick favorites for object mode and edit mode. So what I like to do is I'll consistently go between either flat or smooth shading to look at a model. So to find this, let's go to Object, and you'll find Shade Smooth. So I'm just going to right click on this and add to Quick Favorites. And now if we press the Q key, we'll see we've got Shade Smooth as a part of our Quick Favorites. And then obviously the opposite is to have Shade Flat. So we'll just go Object, Shade Flat, right click, add to Quick Favorites. And now we can just quickly toggle between those two with our Q key. So then the next one, something I find I do quite often, is wanting to change where the, origin point of a mesh is. So I like to be able to just go ahead and press Q and change either the object to geometry or 3D cursor or wherever it is. So let's get object to geometry first. So once again, it's under object, and we'll go ahead and we will find set origin at the top here, and we'll go origin to geometry. So we'll right click, add to quick favorites. And while we're here, we'll also get origin to 3D cursor and add that to the quick favorites. So now if I wanted to set my origin to where my 3D cursor is, just press Q, origin to 3D cursor, and now my pivot point will be around there. And if I wanted to set it back to the origin, I can bring it back and just quickly move things around, which I just find rather easy. Cool. The next one is a little bit different and probably not too heavily related to 3D modeling explicitly, but since I am trying to teach some character modeling, I do need to flesh that out a little bit more. But we will work with rigs eventually, so if I just unhide the one that I had conveniently prepared earlier. I kind of find it annoying when you're working with a rig being able to actually see all the bones, especially if you've got it posed up and framed in a camera. It can just be a little bit annoying, and sure, we can hide it, but then we can't actually select any of the bones. So something I find quite handy is just being able to toggle these off through the viewport. So if we go to our viewport overlays here, you'll notice that there's an option to toggle the bones on and off, but they're still in our scene. We just can't see them, unlike the hide. So if we just right click on this, we can also add this to our quick favorites, and then we can just toggle this on and off quite easily at the press of a button there. And then the final thing, similar to the whole modeling aspect, to the rendering aspect, is framing our camera. So if I press 0 here, we can go onto the frame and see what our camera sees. And, we can try to adjust this to match the camera to fill up our entire viewport, but it can get a little bit tedious to try to do that all the time. So instead, I really like the frame to camera bounds option here. So if we just go to our view, and then we go to cameras, we've got this frame camera bounds. So I'm going to right click, add this to my quick favorites, and that will be all that I want here. And then notice when we click this, then we sort of get a full screen view of what our camera is seeing, which is really handy. Cool, so I'm just going to go ahead and hide that rig now, because I don't need it. So let's go into edit mode here. And so without a doubt, the thing that I use most is loop tools. So what we'll do is we'll press W to get the context menu up. And you'll notice we've got loop tools here, and it gives us access to all of the operations. So I kind of like to have loop tools in its entirety at the top of our quick favorites so that I can access all of these options here when I need them. We can, of course, always access loop tools through the end panel, but I personally actually find that quite tedious to go and open up the end panel all the time. So just having all of them here is a lot easier. The next thing I'll do a lot is a lot of merging of vertices. And, we can use the M key to very easily pull up that little menu there. But I like quick favorites and having them all in the one area. So what I like to do is if we go to Mesh, and then we go to Merge, we can right click and add this to the quick favorites. And then we don't need to press M, we can just press Q, and we have our Merge menu here as well. Next thing I like to do, and it might seem a little bit counterintuitive, but the most frequent operations I use from loop tools, as you guys might know that have followed my tutorials, are the space and relax operations. So instead of always having to access them through this little drop down, what I'd like to do is we can just bring up our quick favorites, go to space, right click, add to quick favorites, and then relax, add to quick favorites, and now I can just very easily access them from here without going into the drop down menu. The next thing I like to do, similar, is dissolving or merging vertices by distance. So instead of always having to go into this drop down menu, I'm just going to add by distance to the quick favorites menu here as well. Something else I like to do to be able to quickly add in topology or just isolate topology is being able to subdivide things. So if we just go to our edge and subdivide, we'll add that to our quick favorites as well. And then I can go ahead and just quite quickly add in subdivisions at the click of a button. And then the final one is another rather handy tool, which is grid fill. So, if we had a denser mesh here, something like this, and all of these faces were missing. So if we go to face and then find grid fill, so then we can fill this in with a perfect grid and we can muck around with our offsets and all that. In this instance, it works fine. So we can just go face and grid fill and we can add that to our quick favorites. And now I've got all of the frequent operations that I use in my quick favorites menu for edit and all of the operations that I frequently use in my quick favorites for object mode as well. So hopefully that just helps you guys follow along with what I do, should help you speed up your modeling process as well, and I'll see you all in the next one.